My soon-to-be wife's entire family decided to get involved when I brought up the idea of a prenup. The way they looked at me, you'd think I had two heads. They couldn't understand why I'd want something like this. Let me break it down for you so it makes sense. Hi everyone, my name's Paul, and I'm at my wit's end. I need advice and don't know who else to turn to. This is a long story, so bear with me. Until recently, everything was going great with my girlfriend, Jessica. We've been together for 4 years, and she's been living with me for a while. Honestly, things felt perfect between us, and I decided it was time to propose. The good news? Jessica said yes. I was over the moon. But here's the catch. I've worked hard to build a significant amount of wealth. Without getting into the details, let's just say I've done well in the business world. Like anyone in my position, I want to protect what I've earned. I know bringing up a prenup can be a touchy subject, but I thought Jessica would understand why I wanted one. To me, it just made sense. I figured she'd see it as a practical step, in case things didn't work out. It wasn't about doubting her love, it was about being cautious. Unfortunately, I misjudged her reaction. I didn't bring up the prenup right away. I wanted us to enjoy the moment and focus on the joy of being engaged. But when I brought it up the day after, Jessica's reaction caught me off guard. Her face said it all. She looked hurt, and her eyes filled with tears. She asked me if I thought all she cared about was my money. I tried to explain why I thought a prenup was a reasonable idea, but it didn't matter. She felt deeply insulted and didn't want to hear me out. Jessica told me that even suggesting a prenup made her question how I saw our relationship. It felt like everything I said just made things worse. She said I must not trust her or believe in our relationship. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I was shocked by her reaction. I mean, I had just proposed the night before. Of course, I trusted her. But she wouldn't listen. After some arguing, things got too heated, so I decided to stop the conversation and give her time to calm down and think. I thought that once she had time to process everything, she'd understand my side. But instead, things got worse. I hoped Jessica would keep this between us, but she went and told her parents about it. Her dad, Tyler, and her mom, Rachel, are unique people. They've always been polite to me, maybe a little quirky, but generally respectful. That's why I was caught off guard when they reacted so strongly to the idea of a prenup. They were furious, and I couldn't understand why. In my opinion, a marriage is between 3 people, me and Jessica. It's not something her parents should meddle in. But they decided to get involved, and it's driving a wedge between me and Jessica. Here's what's been happening since Jessica told them about the prenup. First, Tyler and Rachel started pressuring Jessica to call off the engagement and break up with me entirely, all because of the prenup. To me, this is completely over the top and ridiculous. What's worse, instead of standing up for me or keeping our relationship private, Jessica started bad-mouthing me to them. She talked to her parents on the phone, right in front of me, saying things like, "I know, Daddy, I shouldn't put up with this." It hurt to hear her side with them. Then she told me outright that her parents think she should leave me. I asked her why she wasn't telling them to stay out of our relationship, but her response was, their daughter's marriage is their business. Our arguments kept going in circles. No matter what I said, it felt like Jessica wasn't really listening to me. Then things escalated. Tyler and Rachel decided to take it up a notch. Out of nowhere, I started getting contacted by ex-girlfriends. Out of nowhere, I started hearing from ex-girlfriends I hadn't spoken to in years. They told me that 3 people named Tyler and Rachel had contacted them, trying to dig up dirt on me. I was shocked. This confirmed that Jessica's parents were stalking me online, snooping through my social media, and desperately looking for anything they could use to convince Jessica to leave me. When I told Jessica about this and said her parents needed to stop, she didn't take me seriously. Instead of standing up for me, she brushed it off, saying she couldn't control her parents and that they were just reacting to the prenup. I couldn't believe it. Her parents were actively trying to ruin our relationship, and Jessica wasn't doing anything about it. As if that wasn't bad enough, I tried to stay patient and let it all blow over. But what Tyler and Rachel did next was the final straw. I travel around the city a lot for work, meeting with clients, consultants, and attending conferences. Last week was especially hectic, and I was constantly on the move. During that week, I noticed something strange. A red car kept showing up wherever I went. At first, I thought it was just a coincidence, but the more I paid attention, the more obvious it became. This car was following me. To test it out, I stopped at a Taco Bell as a distraction, just to see what would happen. Sure enough, the car pulled into the parking lot behind me. It was clear this person wasn't there for tacos. I was furious. I got out of my car and walked straight to the driver's window. The guy inside looked shocked and nervous. He was wearing a detective-style trench coat, in the middle of summer, and driving a bright red car. Clearly, he wasn't very good at being discreet. I asked him why he was following me and how much Tyler and Rachel were paying him. At first, he denied everything, but after I kept pressing him, he finally cracked. He admitted that Tyler and Rachel had hired him to spy on me. He even said they seemed crazy and that he was bored out of his mind following me to business meetings all week. Still, he couldn't turn down the money they were offering. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. Tyler and Rachel had hired a private investigator to stalk me around the city. This was beyond invasive, and it showed just how far they were willing to go to sabotage my relationship with Jessica. I pulled out my wallet, handed the private investigator a decent tip, and told him to stop following me. He gladly accepted. I knew I could outpay whatever Tyler and Rachel were offering him. After that, I pulled out my phone and called Tyler and Rachel right away. Rachel answered, and from the moment she picked up, she was rude. "What do you want?" she snapped. I stayed calm but firm and told her that she and Tyler were no longer welcome at my engagement party. No discussion, no second chances. That's when Rachel completely lost it. She started yelling over the phone about the prenup, saying I didn't love Jessica and spouting all sorts of nonsense. I regret losing my temper, but I finally snapped. I told her, in no uncertain terms, to stop harassing me and following me, or I'd go to the police. I made it clear that if she didn't stop, I wouldn't just ban her and Tyler from the engagement party, I'd ban Jessica's entire family. After all, the party was happening on my property, and I had every right to decide who could and couldn't come. Instead of backing down, Rachel called my bluff. She accused me of not being serious and continued yelling. I couldn't believe how bold and disrespectful she was. I couldn't help but laugh at her audacity. I told her that if she, Tyler, or anyone else from Jessica's family so much as stepped foot on my property, I'd call the police and have them removed. Of course, Rachel kept rambling and yelling, so I hung up on her. Not even 10 minutes later, my phone started ringing again. This time, it was Tyler, calling and texting like a maniac. I tried ignoring it, but he wouldn't stop, so I finally picked up. Tyler immediately started tearing into me. He called me a terrible boyfriend, a failure of a man, and said I had no right to marry his angel. I told him to keep dreaming and suggested he find a new hobby. That only made him angrier. He went on a rant, claiming he had top lawyers who would destroy me in court. He said he'd sue me into the ground and make sure I never married Jessica. I had enough of his threats, so I hung up and blocked his number. I was done with Tyler and Rachel's nonsense. When I got home, I found Jessica sulking and acting like a child. I was still fired up and full of adrenaline from dealing with the private investigator and her parents, so I'll admit, I lost my temper. We ended up having another big argument, this time about her parents harassing me. During the argument, I found out that Jessica actually knew about the private investigator. Her excuse? She agreed with her parents that I couldn't be trusted and needed to be followed. I was completely stunned. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. I told her right then and there that her entire family was uninvited from the engagement party. As expected, Jessica didn't take this well. She started threatening to cancel the engagement party altogether. I told her that it was my property, and the party was happening no matter what. I also made it clear that if her parents or any of her family members showed up, I would call the police. For the next few days, things were tense. We barely spoke to each other and started sleeping in separate rooms. It was awkward and uncomfortable, but I thought things might settle down eventually. Then, today, I came home after a long day at work, trying to make an effort to patch things up. I even bought flowers and chocolates for Jessica. But when I checked the mailbox, I found a serious-looking envelope inside. I opened it and discovered a document claiming that Tyler and Rachel were actually suing me. The document looked strange, so there's a chance it might not even be official, but I'm not sure. That's why I'm typing all of this out. I need advice on what to do next. Honestly, I've never heard of anything like this before. Sure, I've heard about drama over prenups, but I've never seen someone's parents get this involved. It's ridiculous. On top of all the stress from work and managing all the bills, I now have to deal with this mess, and Jessica's just sitting back, letting her parents make my life miserable. I'm at a loss and I don't know what to do. That's why I'm turning to you all for advice. How do I handle this? Is there even a way forward? Thanks for reading, everyone. If you've got any tips or thoughts, please share them. Hey everyone, Paul here with an update. I wish I could say things have settled down, but honestly, they've only gotten worse. First off, thank you to everyone who shared advice on my last post. It's been helpful to hear different perspectives. To give you a bit more context, I have an ex-girlfriend named Shirley. We've stayed friends since our breakup because we both work in the same field and run into each other a lot. For the record, Jessica has never had an issue with Shirley. They've even met a few times and seem to get along just fine. Naturally, with everything going on, I ended up talking to Shirley about the whole situation. We were having a few drinks after work, venting about life and work stress, when I finally let it all out. I told her about the prenup drama, the private investigator, the engagement party issues, and how Tyler and Rachel had even contacted my exes to dig up dirt on me. I didn't hold anything back. Shirley listened and then mentioned something interesting. Tyler and Rachel hadn't reached out to her. She thought this was strange, and then she had an idea. She offered to call them and vouch for me. She said she could explain what kind of person I really am and maybe help smooth things over. At first, I told her it wasn't a good idea. I didn't think it would make a difference. But Shirley was insistent. She truly believed she could get through to them, and to be honest, I was so desperate at that point that I thought, why not? I didn't think things could get much worse, so I reluctantly told her, if you really want to call them, go ahead. Looking back, I realize how naive that was. I thought having an ex-girlfriend speak highly of me might make me look like a decent guy, someone who keeps respectful relationships even after a breakup. But as I sit here typing this, it's so clear how wrong I was. What happened next took everything to a whole new level of chaos. I should have stopped Shirley. Deep down, I knew it wasn't a good idea, and that Tyler and Rachel wouldn't take anything positive away from her call. But I let it happen, and now, as you might have guessed, things have only gotten worse. Until today, I had completely forgotten about Shirley even offering to call Jessica's parents. Then, out of nowhere, I got hit with the fallout. I was sitting in the living room watching TV when Jessica stormed in, tears streaming down her face. My parents just told me you're in love with some woman named Shirley, she cried. I was stunned. How could Tyler and Rachel twist Shirley's kind gesture into something so awful? Now, Jessica's parents had convinced her that I was cheating on her with Shirley. My situation went from bad to worse, and I didn't know what to do. Hey everyone, I'm back with another update, and there's both good and bad news. First off, thank you to everyone who's still following along and offering advice. The good news is, I've finally made some progress in talking things out with Jessica. For the first time since the prenup argument, we had a productive conversation. We didn't fully resolve the prenup issue yet, but we managed to compromise and make plans for the engagement party. To help calm Jessica's fears about Shirley, I agreed to uninvite her from the party. I felt terrible about it and apologized to Shirley. Thankfully, she was incredibly understanding and didn't hold it against me or Jessica. She put the blame squarely on Jessica's parents, calling their behavior outrageous. In return, I let Jessica invite her extended family to the engagement party, on one condition: Tyler and Rachel had to stay far away. Jessica agreed, and we moved forward with the plan. The day of the engagement party finally arrived. We tried to make everything feel normal, but there was a clear tension in the air. Too many people at the party knew about the drama between me and Jessica, and it created an awkward vibe that I couldn't ignore. Still, I decided to tough it out. I plastered on a smile, opened a beer, and did my best to mingle and play the role of a good host. As the night went on, we started singing engagement songs and toasting with champagne. For the first time in weeks, I started to feel a bit more relaxed. I watched Jessica smiling, and it reminded me why I fell in love with her in the first place. Seeing her happy made me smile too. We even danced for a while, and for a brief moment, it felt like things might finally be okay. For a brief moment, I forgot all the outside drama with Jessica's parents. But then, just like in a movie where everything comes to a screeching halt, Tyler and Rachel walked into the room. It felt like a record scratch. Everyone froze. The sudden silence told me that everyone there knew about the drama between me and them. Even though they had gone against my wishes by showing up, I tried to stay respectful. I greeted them politely and even offered them champagne, wine, or beer. I was determined not to cause a scene at my own engagement party. But instead of accepting my hospitality, they threw 2 glasses of champagne directly in my face. I stood there drenched, completely humiliated. This was my engagement party, and my future in-laws had just publicly embarrassed me in front of everyone. I lost it. I demanded they leave immediately. Right there, in front of Jessica's entire family, I called out Tyler and Rachel for being the most awful, toxic people I'd ever dealt with. If anyone at the party didn't already know about the drama, they sure knew now. I listed all the things they'd done: the harassment, the private investigator, and the fake lawsuit. I reminded them that I knew their lawsuit was bogus and warned them that if they ever came near me again, I'd sue them for everything they had. Now, as I sit here typing this, I'm back home from the party, and Jessica is furious with me. She doesn't seem to see how much her parents are at fault for ruining the night. We were having a great time until Tyler and Rachel showed up, but somehow, I'm the bad guy. Update 3. Hey, it's Paul again. I have another update, and unfortunately, it's not a happy one. I mostly need to vent, and you all have been great listeners so far. When I first made that post a few weeks ago, I was a happy man engaged to the woman I love. Sure, there were some big issues with Jessica's parents, but I thought we could work through them. Now, Jessica has moved out of my house and back in with Tyler and Rachel. I'm devastated. It feels like everything has fallen apart. I've been so depressed that I did something I never do. I took an entire week off from work. It feels embarrassing to admit, but I just can't handle it right now. I could barely get out of bed. As Jessica packed her things, I begged her to stay and pleaded for us to work things out, but she insisted that we needed a break after everything that's happened. She said she was upset about how I treated her parents at the engagement party. I don't want to sound selfish, but I honestly can't understand why she doesn't see that her parents were the ones who caused the problem. They crashed the party even though I told them not to, and they threw champagne in my face in front of everyone. How am I the bad guy here? But no matter what I said, Jessica wouldn't listen. I can't believe how much my life has turned upside down. Still, I'm trying to cope. I've been spending some time with Shirley. She's a great listener and always supportive. She told me I need to start preparing to move on from Jessica, but I'm not ready for that yet. I'm still holding on to hope that Jessica will come back. On a positive note, I've also been leaning on my best friend of 11 years, Larry. We've gone out for beers and played a few rounds of golf recently, and he's been there for me while I vent about everything going on. It's been good to have someone to talk to. At least there's one bit of good news. I found out for sure that the lawsuit from Tyler and Rachel was fake. Since Jessica moved out, I haven't had to deal with their harassment or drama, which has brought me some much-needed peace. But the house feels so empty and quiet without Jessica here, and it's eating me up inside. It's Paul again, and unfortunately, things just keep getting worse. Life seems determined to throw curveballs at me, and I've never felt so betrayed. In my last update, I mentioned that I'd been opening up to my best friend, Larry, about everything going on with Jessica. I trusted him completely. I thought he was someone I could rely on. But I was wrong. I just got off the phone with Jessica, and what she told me has completely blindsided me. I tried my best to have a calm conversation with Jessica, but it was tough. It felt like I was talking to a completely different person from the woman I've known these past few years. We started discussing the possibility of getting back together, but Jessica said she needed more time because she was still upset with me. Then she dropped a bombshell. Jessica told me that Larry had been visiting her parents' house. I was stunned. I asked why this was happening and why Larry, my so-called best friend, had never mentioned it to me. Jessica said Larry didn't want me to know because, according to him, I wasn't mature enough to handle it. I felt completely blindsided. Jessica went on to tell me that Larry had been pressuring her to break up with me. He told her I was a bad partner and even accused me of bad-mouthing her during one of our recent golf outings. As if that wasn't enough, Jessica then revealed that Larry had admitted to having feelings for her. I was in total disbelief. I had never seen anything between them, not a single hint of flirting or anything inappropriate. But unless Jessica was lying, Larry had been hiding this from me the entire time he'd known her. It only got worse. Larry had also told Jessica that he thought it was disrespectful of me to ask her to sign a prenup. The irony? Larry had his first wife sign a prenup 9 years ago, and it saved him during their divorce. I couldn't take it anymore. I demanded answers and told Jessica to stop seeing Larry behind my back. Her response left me speechless. She said that since I was allowed to spend time with Shirley, she should be allowed to see Larry. She also claimed they weren't romantically involved but added, anything could happen since we're still on a break. That was too much for me to handle. The thought of my best friend and my fiancé being anything more than just friends made me feel sick. I didn't know what to say. I just hung up the phone. Shirley has been incredibly supportive through all this, but right now, it feels like no one else is in my corner. I can't believe Jessica is even considering being with Larry. I can't believe all of this happened because of a prenup. Update 5. Hey everyone, it's been a while. Honestly, I've been trying to move on from this entire mess, but I don't want to leave anyone hanging, so here's what happened. Not long after my last update, I had a rough evening. I couldn't get the thought of Jessica and Larry out of my head. It was eating away at me and I felt like I needed answers. Against my better judgment, I decided to drive to Jessica's parents' house to see for myself what was going on. It was raining hard, and I had this awful feeling in my gut, like I was about to witness something that would destroy me. Unfortunately, my instincts were right. When I got there, I immediately spotted Larry's car in the driveway. My heart sank, but I had to know for sure. I parked, walked up to the door and knocked. Tyler answered, and right behind him, in the kitchen, I saw Jessica and Larry kissing. My heart broke into a million pieces. Even though I'd feared this might happen, seeing it with my own eyes was unbearable. My jaw dropped, and I felt completely shattered. I pushed past Tyler and demanded an explanation from Jessica and Larry. Larry just stood there, too much of a coward to say anything. Jessica, on the other hand, looked me in the eye and said, point blank, that she had chosen to be with Larry for now. She even had the nerve to say she might consider giving our relationship another shot in the future, but only if I dropped the issue of the prenup. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. It was the most heartless, manipulative thing I've ever experienced in my life. I told Jessica this was the lowest thing anyone had ever done to me in all my years of dating. Then I turned to Tyler and Rachel and let them have it. I told them they'd raised someone just as cruel and self-centered as they were and asked if they were proud of themselves. Instead of saying anything meaningful, they started yelling and threatening to sue me again. I laughed and reminded them that they couldn't even afford a lawyer in real life. I told them they better hope I don't end up suing them someday. With Larry, Jessica, Tyler, and Rachel all yelling at me at the same time, I realized I'd had enough. I'd spent so much time fighting for someone who didn't value me, and it wasn't worth it anymore. Without saying another word, I turned around, walked out of their house, and shut the door behind me. They were still shouting as I got into my car and drove away. That was 7 weeks ago, and now, I'm with Shirley. We broke up years ago because the timing wasn't right, but somehow, all this chaos with Jessica brought us closer than ever. Through everything, Shirley was the one person who stood by me. Even when my best friend betrayed me and Jessica's family made my life miserable, Shirley never left my side. Most of my family has passed away, but Shirley has helped me feel less alone. She's been my rock through all of this. As I type this, we're in Rome, getting ready for a date. I'm sitting in our hotel room while she's getting dressed, and honestly, I couldn't be happier. What are Jessica and Larry up to? I have no idea, and I don't care. I'm in love with Shirley now, and I'm finally at peace. Thank you all for following along with my story. Many of you told me I should have been with Shirley from the start, and you were right. I wish I had realized it sooner. Now, I want to hear from you. How would you handle a situation like this? Knowing that it all started over a prenup, then spiraled into betrayal, family drama, and heartbreak, would you have done things differently? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. And if you're new to the channel, don't forget to subscribe. I'll see you all tomorrow with a brand new story.